Okay, finally, guys, I am gonna give you my review, my spoiler review slash end credit scene explained video for X-Men: Days of Future Past. I really enjoyed this movie. I haven't really enjoyed a film like this since maybe the Avengers, especially because it has so many characters, so many timelines, and um, I just love how Bryan Singer he really impressed me how he put this film together. So because there's so many characters, what I'm gonna do is in no specific order, really. Well, I guess from the order that IMBD gave me the cast, I'm gonna explain maybe my review of their performance and their 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 contribution or their contribution to the film. Um, so, in case you guys didn't know, X-Men: Days of Future Past is based on the comic book. They do change a lot of things, but I mean, I've grown to not expect to see a direct interpretation of the comic to the film. I know that they have to change things around, and I know that it depends on the director and the studio and etc. So, without further ado, let's start nitpicking this film. So, let's start off with Hugh Jackman. Wolverine, although I have mentioned before, I am tired of seeing a Wolverine-centric X-Men universe, and although he is a badass in this film, I liked how they depowered him. In case you guys didn't know, he wakes up in the 70s, I believe, which in that time he had not met Stryker, and he had not adamantium. He didn't have the adamantium skeleton, so that's why you do get to see his skeletal claws. So this allowed other mutants to have their spot in the sun. So that's what I liked. I mean, I know he's like the Robert Downey Jr. of the X-Men universe, but I really want to see more other mutants get their screen time. All right, so let's go to James McAvoy, which is the young Charles Xavier. In this film, he has just lost it. He's really depressed. He lost his legs, and he lost Mystique, which is basically like a sister to him. Due to the fact that he wanted to use his legs again, Hank McCoy created this serum which affects his DNA, and that's why he's able to walk again, but he loses his powers. It's basically like a big drug heroin metaphor. I liked how they played that. So it only added to his, depression. And I like how Wolverine pulls him out of that, and he gets him to be the Charles Xavier that we know him as in the future. So next we have Michael Fassbender, who portrays the young Magneto, and I since the first X-Men First Class, I really liked his performance. He's everything. He's basically plays the modern Magneto as we know him. You really see how he grows, or how he depicts the modern villain, the modern Magneto, and how he's destined to have that feud with the Charles Xavier. In case you guys didn't know, Charles Xavier is based off Martin Luther King, and Magneto is based off Malcolm X. So I love how it goes back to their relationship, and this film just shines on that again. Okay, so another main character in this film is probably Jennifer Lawrence's portrayal of Mystique. So it's basically, this whole film is about hope. Even Mystique, she has left Charles, she has left Magneto, and she's basically this cold-hearted, not killer yet, but a cold-hearted person, where she just sees that she's been tortured by humans, she's been ridiculed, so she just sees them as very evil people, and she just wants her revenge. And you see her from the point where she's Raven to Mystique. You see her transition to the Mystique, or the evil villain that we know her today. And this basically shows how this film portrays how the events of the future she ultimately controls the fate of the future mutants in the post-apocalyptic setting that we see in the beginning of the film. So next we see Storm. Of course, she's in there as a veteran. She doesn't really have much dialogue, But I mean, I like what the little screen time she had. I kind of enjoyed her in that. Uh, Nicholas Holt's portrayal of Hank McCoy slash Beast. When we were looking at the trailer, I didn't like how he sort of hulks out. He only becomes the Beast when he needs to, when he gets angry, I guess. I didn't like that, but when I saw the film and how he was treating his mutation, he was basically a metaphor for like the closet mutant, or I guess a homosexual in modern day times. But I liked how they showed that since he was self-conscious of the way he looked, what's something he would do. His character would try to hide himself and appear to be human as opposed to being mutant. And in the battle with him and Magneto, I guess he gets kind of clawed down on a fountain, and everyone pretty much sees, and he sees how people looks at him, and he just storms out and takes off. So I really like what they did with his character. Rogue, she's in the film for like about 5 seconds. I'll talk about more of that at the end of this review. Okay, so Ellen Page is Kitty Pryde. In the original X-Men Days of Future Past, she's the one that goes back in time. In the film, they sort of show you how she supposedly has developed the power to send people's consciousness back into the past. She's never ever had that power. I don't even know how. I guess what they were trying to do is she can walk through walls. So I guess sending people's consciousness through the walls of time. I don't really know how it works. You get over it. They do show it in the beginning of the film, and you just for the sake of the story, you just buy it. But I don't know. That's one of the things. I really like this film, but that's one of the things that I would have to like nitpick, that it just doesn't. My mind can't really accept it. But if anything, Charles Xavier is the one that can send people's consciousness back. I mean, he is like the master of the mind, and a professor of all that. But I digress. Okay, so Peter Dinklage, who I think is an awesome actor. I love him in Games of Thrones. He portrays Dr. Bolivar Trask. So Bolivar Trask is basically the guy who develops the Sentinel program. And although in the storyline he's not a short person, I like that the casting director was able to look past that. Peter Dinklage is amazing actor, and that's why he got the role. He's the best man for the job, regardless of his appearance, size, or whatever. He's there because of his acting chops. So I'm glad they casted him. I really like Peter Dinklage, and I hope to see him in in more films, not just X-Men films. And then we have Iceman, portrayed by Shawn Ashmore, also a veteran. One of the things that really got to me in the beginning of the film, you see how the Sentinels brutally just kill all these new mutants and some of the old ones. And even though that they're going to go back in time, so it doesn't really matter, it still hit me right in the feels, like when they decapitated Iceman, when they stabbed Storm, etc. But I mean, it really gets to me. So they really did a good job. Despite the fact that they didn't give you much backstory or character development, you had me caring for these characters. I guess it's because I grew up with these characters and reading about them, and I pretty much know their backstory. But I mean, I wonder how someone who doesn't really know the films or haven't really observed the films or the comic books reacted to this. Okay, so Omar Sy is playing Bishop. In the film, Bishop has a bigger role and pays more contribution to the storyline. But in this one, I guess he's just there for fan service. In case you guys didn't know what he was doing, his powers involve power. He can absorb an energy blast, and he can project it on his own, or he can just keep it. And so that's why he projects it out of his gun. He's from the future. In the comic books, it's revealed that he's actually related to Storm. But I guess he's in this film just for fan service or just to give a nod to the character. Alright, Evan Peters. I did not like the way he looked and how they advertised him in the trailer and that Carl's Jr. stupid commercial that he came out in. And I thought this character was just going to be stupid. But I actually like this portrayal. I mean, I still don't like his costume. I still don't like how he was dressed. But I really, really loved how funny he was and how he shows off his powers. That really, it really had me laughing in the film. And in case you guys didn't know, in the next film, X-Men Apocalypse, he's actually going to be there. Okay. So Josh Hellman. Okay, here we go. I'm tired of seeing Wolverine in this center plot, and I'm also seeing as a Stryker. I've read a lot of X-Men comic books, and maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, I've never heard of mention of Stryker, so I'm tired of seeing his ass. I mean, I get why they put him in this film so they can like sort of show or depict how Wolverine gets his claws. But I'm just tired of seeing him. I mean, like, I just feel like the movies would be best. Everything that had to do with him was just, I believe, said in X-Men 2 or X-Men Origins, which is also a bad film. But I digress. So let's move on to Colossus. Again, like most of the other characters or the New Mutants, they didn't get a lot of speaking roles. They didn't get a lot of dialogue. So that's another thing that I probably did not like. They're missing out on a lot of opportunities here by having these characters come out but not giving them dialogue. They're more there. They're just there for like the battle scenes with the future Sentinels, and I wish they would have just had more dialogue, more screen time, and to really get me to care about the characters even more, you know. And same things for Blink. I really love the way she looked. I love her teleportation powers. They were really, really nice special effects, and she was pretty badass. I wish to see more of her. I can't really say much, like I said, because she didn't get a lot of spot, only just in the battle scenes. Same thing for Sunspot. A lot of people thought in the trailer that was gonna be what's the guy's name? Pyro, but actually Sunspot is I think he's Brazilian, and he basically, as his name suggests, he has the power of to go really, really inflame his body, almost like the Human Torch, but he can actually utilize the same temperatures of the sun. Warpath, same thing. He wasn't in the film that much, only for the battle scenes. I know he's a Native American mutant. I'm not too sure of what his powers are, but in the film they showed that he could, like, I guess, sense or see things coming from far away. If someone can please comment below and let me know about Warpath. I've seen him in the comic books. I just don't know much about him. And then we have Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, Magneto and Professor X. I just like how they constantly reference each other in the future and the past timeline. This is a time traveling movie, so if you don't really draw a map, or if you're not really familiar how things work, you can get confused. But there's not much to say about these characters because they're just awesome and everything they do, and it's just perfect casting. In the center of the film, we have Havoc, which is Cyclops' brother. And like I said, another problem. He was only in there for like one scene, just to show that he's, I guess, he enlisted in the army, which kind of makes sense, I guess. So some of the majority of the cast from the first class, they just had him killed off, which I guess it's a handy way of like just saying, okay, look, here they are and here they're dead. But it's kind of like lazy writing, if you ask me. But I guess it makes sense for the storyline. And then we have Toad, who's, I guess, he's been there since like the first film. They just wanted to nod that character again, which, okay, I guess I'll let Singer pass that one. And finally, we have the end credit scene. You see, we're in ancient Egypt, in case you didn't know, and we see a mutant building a pyramid with using just, I guess, telekinetic powers. In case you guys didn't know, the name they're chanting is En-Sabah-Nur, and basically that's the first mutant ever. And in case you guys didn't know, he's AKA Apocalypse. And if you see to the right, or I guess you would say the left of the character, there's 4 horsemen. And I was surprised to know that most people didn't know who that was. It was basically like a Thanos-ish Avenger scene, like the way they did it. And I was really excited when I saw it. I knew Apocalypse was going to be in the film, and I just like what they did with it. You see like a young boy, like, with gray skin and like sort of a dark cloak. And so yeah, guys, that's the Apocalypse. He's Apocalypse, and he's one of the first mutants ever, and he's from ancient Egypt. So, and let me know what you guys are excited to see the next X-Men film. It's going to be based off Apocalypse. And so, oh, and before that, I'm sorry, I almost forgot to mention this. So basically, X-Men 1 was pretty good. X-Men 2 is pretty cool too. I love Nightcrawler, and they're both directed by Bryan Singer. But in X-Men 3 was directed by Brett Ratner, that stupid son of a bitch, who basically killed the Phoenix story saga line. He killed Cyclops, he killed Phoenix, he killed Charles Xavier. He just basically killed everybody in the franchise as a whole. And also, X-Men Origins Part 1 was just completely stupid and retarded. And it was not true to the storyline. The only thing that was true to the storyline was probably the first scene where you see Wolverine, aka James Howlett, as a young boy, and accidentally killing his biological father. That's the only thing probably that kept true to the comics. So anyway, at the end of the film, you see all the characters again. They're all in the Xavier Mansion or Institute, and they're all teachers. And you see again Jean Grey and Cyclops. And I wasn't actually expecting this, but I'm glad they did this, because basically what they did with this movie, they rebooted everything. They went back in time, so they altered the whole timeline. So you can basically say that X-Men 1 happened, X-Men 2 happened, First Class happened, but X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins never happened. So it basically erases it from the continuity, and this gives the studio a chance to start from scratch. So I really like that. I've never seen this happen before, as opposed to like starting from scratch and rebooting the whole series, which is basically what they did, but using the same characters and using this movie to get rid of all that bad stuff. So I really like what they did. I think they were really creative. A couple things that I didn't like, as I mentioned before, the Kitty Pryde sending consciousness into the back. I didn't like how some of the New Mutants didn't really get a lot of screen time or a lot of backstory. But hey, you know what? Overall, this was a fun film. I loved it. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe as always. And are you guys excited to see the next X-Men film?